Welcome back to episode 2 of Women Create Armies. We have a very special guest today. Thank you so much for joining me, Emma. Say hi to our guests.
Hello.
So I guess we'll just kind of start with like you introducing yourself. Tell me a little bit about what you do, and then we'll get into like how we actually know each other.
Yeah. Yeah. So my name is Emma. I am 28 years old, if that matters. I have been in sales slash retail for 7 years now. And most of my working life was some sort of customer service or retail. Um, I enjoy jujitsu and baking and gardening and anything homestead-ish. I feel like I'm getting more and more into. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much me.
Awesome. And we know each other because JT, well, I call him JT, but you call him Jace. You just recently got married to a longtime family friend of ours. I just call him my cousin.
Yeah, basically family.
Yes. His sister specifically has been like my best friend for like almost 20 years now. So they're just cousins. But you just recently got married to him and went on a honeymoon. Remind me where it was.
So we actually did one honeymoon in Lake Tahoe and then the other one in France.
Oh, yeah. How was that? Because you just got back, right?
Yeah, it was cool. It was, I'd say like immensely grateful for the opportunity to see all that. But like something I was telling everybody today that I got back was something you don't realize is, so imagine being at a restaurant or like at a mall or walking on the road and, there's all these people around you walking, talking. You hear everybody talking, but you don't know what they're saying because you don't speak the language.
Yeah.
So that was probably something I didn't even like. I knew going in, yeah, I don't speak French, but sitting there at, lunch or breakfast or just walking along the street and hearing all of this stuff, but not knowing what people are saying or what people, posters in the windows, don't know what it says. That was the weirdest part, I'd say. It's so beautiful there. Everything is so old. Everything is so, I feel like there's so much more thought and pride into keeping the history and maintaining what represents the country and kind of their roots, which I was talking to one of Jace's coworkers we went out to dinner with that works and lives in France. And I was like, everything here is so beautiful. And he's like, well, you have to realize we're a lot older than America. And I was like, yeah, but you don't understand. If we had something this old, we would tear it down and build a neighborhood or a car wash. Like that's just the American way. We don't take pride in let's spend the money on rehabbing this place and bringing it back to life. It's like, meh, just knock it down and create a new one.
Yeah, that's true. I've actually never been out of country other than Canada.
That was my first time.
Yeah.
I'd never have even been into Canada, and I went to France.
Oh my
So that was
gosh.
also, and I flew by myself because Jace was already out there for work. So here I am in like Amsterdam airport, biggest airport I think maybe in the world or one of the biggest.
Wow.
And I'm just like, don't get lost. Don't just follow
Don't
the
lose my
signs.
passport.
Yeah, don't piss anybody off. Even though that was the hardest part on the way back, because like the way that they like it's not the same there as here. They're not very like, especially Midwestern of, oh, excuse me. Oh, they just look at you like, get out of the way or get out of my way.
Right.
And yeah, you can tell just going through TSA and some of the things I wanted to be like, what's your problem? But then I'm like, I don't want to end up on the news in handcuffs. And then next thing you know, I can't get back into the United States.
Yeah, for sure. What was it like? Actually, so I don't really know much. Obviously, I've never traveled there, but it's kind of like it's a worry of mine to go to like France because you see everything on the news, but like, what is it really like?
So we didn't go to Paris. We were in Toulouse, which is, I'd say 4 to 6 hours south of Paris. And it was, I mean, I think you get this nervousness going into a different type of culture where there's different language, different everything. And there were some, learning curves, but ultimately it wasn't really that crazy. It's just cultural differences. Like they smoke a lot. They smoke cigarettes a lot. Like you don't see vapes like you see here. It's cigarettes. And then their way of life is like, they're not so work focused like America is. So they take a hour to 2 hour lunch break and they go to an actual restaurant and have a good meal with a glass of wine. And when they go out to dinner, it's not abnormal for them to spend 4 hours at dinner because it's considered like an event. It's not in America where it's okay, rush and have your decision so they could flip the table. They don't get tips in France. They have a salary for restaurants.
Oh, that's really cool.
So it's more like an experience, I guess. Um, but I didn't feel unsafe. I just wanted to be respectful to the culture and not, walk around and be like, oh, you don't speak English? What's wrong with you? That was not my forte. Like, I'm in somebody else's country. I respect the fact that I don't know this language. I'll try. But even like Etienne, Jace's work buddy, was like, if you speak poor French, we're just going to speak English to you. We're not going to want to put up with that. I was like, okay, well, I tried.
Fair.
But yeah, I was worried about that too. Is like you see things on the news and you think that you have to be on the lookout all the time, or they're immediately going to know you're American and they're going to, go after you. And I didn't feel that way at all. I mean, you would see like 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old kids walking around by themselves.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing too that's interesting is like we went to a few cafes where these people would just sit outside, and then eventually when they saw them, they would go out and like get their order and get them drinks or whatever. And then the people working would just be back in the cafe. And whenever they were done, sometimes they were there for hours, they would just go in and pay. And I said to Jason, like, that's odd. Cause like in America, they would constantly be checking up on them because people would just walk away without paying, which is kind of sad that, it's awesome that they can trust, like the culture has a standard of, I guess, that ethical level of trusting the people that are coming there to spend money.
Yeah. That's totally different. Like, obviously, from our perspective, all we have is the news, unless you know people who specifically went there or you went there yourself. And that's what I like about, obviously, like having the or getting to talk to people who go to those other countries, because the news is only going to show you the worst or the things
Mm-hmm.
that are fear inducing or make you feel a certain way. Whatever the agenda is that month is what they're going to show you. And that's something that, like, the more I research into like why people are so worried in general, it's like because they rely so much on their emotions. And then you look at politics and it's like one party is so emotional, and then we just like the non-emotional side, vice versa, they like all just kind of attack each other. And it's like then you look at what those people are actually basing their thoughts off of, and it's not necessarily common sense. But
Mm-hmm.
I also have a hard time saying it's their fault. Like, they're in environments where all they see is like emotional things, and not it's like very human to have emotions about, like, when you see someone hurt in a like a foreign country or even in your own city, and
Mm-hmm.
then you walk around fearful or making decisions only off your emotions. It's just sad.
Yeah. Or they think, wherever they are getting their sources of media or news from, they think that's reliable. They're like, this is what I've known to be a good source. So to them, they don't associate a fear mongering with it. They're just, oh my goodness, this must be reality. And
Mm-hmm.
again, they don't know any different. They're not purposefully trying to be irrational or anything. It's
Right.
just all they know.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I have some general topics for today, but the other day, like, obviously we sat down, we're just talking in general about what it's like to kind of be like a woman. So, something that we were talking about is like, well, I was the same, I am the same way as like, right? Like, a woman can do whatever a man can do, but our thoughts are kind of evolving and changing in that way. So I was curious, one of my questions was like, um, obviously women can do everything men can do. Like, why do you feel the need to say and sometimes prove that? And like, give me some background into like why I guess our it's true, right? It's true, but why do we feel like we have to say that?
I mean, that's a great question. I feel like, so it depends, I think, also on the personality. No, I don't think it depends on the personality of the woman. I think growing up and all through like childhood, you're kind of led to believe of, or like even whether you're not led to believe, but maybe even little boys around you are like, well, you're a woman or you're a girl. You cry a lot, or you're not as strong as me, which obviously they're kids. They don't know, they don't mean to be offensive or mean. So I think, but that's kind of like the stigma that you're around. So it's like, from a young age, you feel like you have to prove yourself to be like, yeah, I may be a girl, but I can still do this. And I can, even if I'm crying my way through it, I'll still be like, prove that I'm stronger than you or just as strong as you. And I think that's probably where the issue starts, is which look at how it is nowadays, shocker, with what they're allowing kids to do and identify as. Parents should raise kids to be proud of whatever they are. If you're a girl because God made you a woman, and that's a beautiful thing. And there's aspects to you that are specific to women, and that's good. If you're a boy, it's because God made you a boy, and there's aspects to you that are made that way for a reason. And this is why our society can come together. And this is why men and women typically are the ones that get married, because it's yin and yang. Yes, you can talk to couples, whether they're 16 and in a relationship or in their 60s and in a relationship. And generally, you come across the same, oh, well, men don't pay attention to this, or honey, you're going to be dealing with that for years. Yes, there's common denominators of the differences between men and women, but that's not a bad thing. And I feel like you're kind of put on this trajectory of like, I have to prove myself to be a certain, have certain capabilities in order to maybe be viewed equally to a man, you know? So like when you're going to school, I think about like sports, is if the men's soccer team is at a certain success rate, it's like the women feel like they need to kind of push the goalposts to then get more recognition. Like it's a competition rather than like boosting each other up, of like, hey, let's work together, rather than as if we're one's better than the other.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's not as, it's not much of a support system. It's like a
Right.
cutthroat, one has to be better than the other, rather than, no, we're made to be this way for a reason, which I feel like for the longest time, I was very much more, I don't think I really paid attention to it in high school. I've always been a more manly woman. So I think that it never really crossed my mind. I was always a more intimidating person. People always thought I was a bitch or scary or whatever word you want to put to it. And then it wasn't until I graduated high school and started working that I was very much in the mentality of like, I'm going to be a boss bitch. And I don't need, my dad did multiple times when I was a kid say, like, I raise all of you girls to not rely on a man. I don't want you to get into a
Mhm.
situation where now that's the only form of income for the household. Now you don't have a choice, which I don't think he was wrong in having that perspective. Like, I think I took it a little too seriously, and I was like, yeah, I'm never gonna, like, I don't need a man for anything, which is cool in some aspects, but then in other aspects, I mean, I don't believe that I was made to be on this planet to be, a boss at work and be in charge of a bunch of people and deal with this immense amount of stress that comes with my job, because I don't believe that that's what is the healthiest for a woman. I think that's why men succeed better in those roles, because they can remove the emotion from it. They can be like, this is black and white. You are
Mhm.
not performing at the level you need to perform, so you need to improve or you need to get out. Here I am like, but guys, he didn't have a dad. Give him a break. Like, we just got to, he's never had the opportunity. And then it plays a toll on me, because then it's like, I take on this motherly role over people that sometimes are even older than me, but I just want to make sure everybody's taken care of and everybody feels valued and cared about, which there are aspects to that that's good, and it helps the area, the department run better. But then there's other aspects that take a way bigger toll on me than are necessary, because the bottom line is, it's a career, it's a job. I'm there to do a job. I need to remove the emotion from it. And if they can't figure it out, they need to find something else, regardless of if they've never had the opportunity or they never, that's kind of on them to figure out. And that's a hard pill for me to swallow.
Oh yeah. I agree. And I would say like for me growing up, I was the same way. Like and I was also told the same things, not in so many words by like my dad, but my mom would always say that like just make sure that you don't have to rely on a man ever. And then 100% you just kind of take it too far. And there's like a lot of statistics right now saying that women, young women specifically, like my generation, Gen Z, are the most like financially secure compared to men. Like they tend to go through college all 4 years and then have and hold better jobs. And I think there's a lot of reasons why that's true, but it's actually harming in the long term, like the really like the nuclear family. And I think
Mm-hmm.
again, there's a lot of reasons. Social media is probably like one of the main ones, but I always thought I just had to be like, and then also people will say like, as a more masculine woman, which I would also put myself in that category, and I would also say like, oh, I'm a boss bitch. Well, if people are just gonna sit here and say like, oh, you're intimidating, mean, and like, you're just too much, you're just that. Like, why wouldn't you lean into that and be like, well, fine then. If that's what you're gonna categorize me as, why won't I just lean into that, which ultimately pushes those people away.
Mm-hmm.
And I see it like just in my own family, like with my brother personally, I would push him away and like just try to own everything and like basically rule the roost. And that was not good for our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I've like changed a lot. It doesn't mean I can't still excel in the areas I'm really good at. That's something that like I'm trying to learn how to lean into more, like what I am good at, but then pairing it with what men are good at. And they're good at decisions and sometimes taking emotion out. And also, so can we be.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say we're emotional women, but it doesn't mean that we don't. I pick up, and you've said this to me too. Like when you're in a room with like 10 people, you know exactly what they're feeling just by
Mm-hmm.
like their body language and their face. And then how on earth do you separate that and make solid, like unbiased, black and white decisions? Like subconsciously, not just consciously. We can consciously do it all day,
Mm-hmm.
but then eventually, like you just get that decision fatigue, and then you lean into your subconscious, and it's like who we are actually, like biologically, and
Yeah.
it's so much deeper than what we choose to do.
But I feel like that's the beauty of being a woman is having those intellectual gut instincts and not a matter of trying to like, oh, well, I need to separate this in order to make a rational decision. I think it's getting to a point where you're secure enough in who you are to have the confidence of making the decision with that still being present, with that emotional. And then sometimes you're not including the emotional or you're aware of it and you say, but in this instance, I can't make a call based on this. Like I can still feel bad or sad or mad or frustrated, but ultimately this is still the right call. And I think the older you get and the more you realize, okay, having this emotion isn't a negative thing. I just kind of have to take it at face value and know that both can exist at the same time. And that's the hard thing. But it's something that I do think is because I look at like me and Jace and all the times where I'll be like, oh, did you see that? That was, they don't normally say that, or they don't act that way, or they don't do that. And he's like, what? What are you talking about? I thought everything was normal. And I'm like, oh, no, no, no. And then give it a week, 2 weeks, whatever, come to find out I was right. But it's like, I have that for a reason. And he doesn't have it for a reason. Like most men, I'd say, don't have that same instinct. But we, again, our biology is to create human life and then give birth to that life. So inherently, when you think about that, we're going to have more of a almost like head on a swivel, more aware of even subtle changes of regular interactions, even with sometimes a stranger. You can kind of just be like, something doesn't seem genuine here. Sometimes it's their personality, other times they're going through something and you're picking up on it and you just don't know what it is.
Yeah, and well, to add to that too, like with the the male perspective of like the black and white, and they don't feel that emotion of the other person. They also don't feel the rationalization of what they went through. Sometimes women violate their own like boundaries because they justify it with, oh, they had a hard upbringing, so like I'll give more of myself to them, or they get themselves into situations where like you basically hurt yourself in whatever way. Like there's so many ways that other individuals can hurt another person, but your man is supposed to like be like, nope, that's not normal. You can justify it and feel bad for them all you want, but like I'm protecting my family. Whereas we'll be like, oh, well, they didn't mean it, or they just need someone good in their life. And again,
Mm-hmm.
you can have both, but it shouldn't, like sometimes we put like rose colored glasses on, at least I will. And I mean, there's times where people really do me wrong and it actually hurt me in like a much bigger way than like I'll allow it to feel. I mean, not that I wouldn't feel it, but then I'll be like, well, they had all this going on. And then say like my mom or even Connor, my fiance, they'll just be like, Melissa, you're crazy. Like that was so wrong of them to do that to you. You can feel whatever way you want about them, but it doesn't change the fact that they did it to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
you know? But it's hard. It's
Oh,
hard
yeah.
sometimes to like not see. And for me, something too is if you feel like something's off, there's like a human need to justify why someone did something. And I feel that so hard sometimes that actually like it will affect me and my dad's relationship, you know, where he'll be like in this situation. I'm like, well, all these other factors and he just wants to be right. Like two things can be right at the same time and it doesn't
Mhm.
mean that I'm wrong or he's wrong, but I think our world as a whole, like if your truth is true, but what I'm saying also is true, well one of us have to be wrong. And that's not it doesn't always have to be so black and white, you
No,
know.
especially with relationships because you
Mhm.
get emotions involved, right? So, yeah, there's like the logical portion to it, and then there's the emotional aspect. So, both can exist at the same time, of which I tell Jace this all the time because he struggles with figuring that out. Is like if I come to him and say, hey, you saying something like this or you doing something like this hurt my feelings. A lot of the time he'll be like, "Oh, okay, well, I'm sorry, I'll do better next time." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I appreciate that, but like what were you thinking in that moment? Like how did you feel?" Because I think it's you can still have had good intentions and then I misconstrued your good intentions, and if we don't communicate about it, then we don't see, "Oh, okay, you meant this, I meant this. We both misunderstood. Both of us may have been partially wrong, but we're okay. Like now we better understand moving forward how to handle this the next time." Where I think a lot of the time it's, "Oh, well, my woman's so emotional or she's on her period or whatever it is." And then with the man, it's like, "Oh, he's so dumb. He's so like he just doesn't think about things the way." And it's like, no, again, your life view and your life perspectives are different. Again, if this man, this human being was put on the earth by God to protect, create safety, there's going to be less gray area because that human being is going to have to be born with the ability of just discerning yes or no. This is okay or this is not okay. So, in order for them to fulfill their role, that's going to be the way that they look at things. For women
Mhm.
to fulfill their role of a mother and a caregiver, they need a lot of gray. We're very gray, but it balances. And
Mhm.
that's why men and women, as much as it's not easy, but if you communicate and you work at it consistently in a relationship, it's marriage is the most beautiful thing on the face of the planet, regardless of how anybody wants to push it of, oh, well, like lately what I've been seeing on TikTok is women our age that are like, it's funny because you'll come across a woman that's in her 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, whether she's been married or still married or widowed or whatever, and they'll still say, "Oh, but don't get married. Don't get married." And they're like, "So, what's the point for us?" And it's like, "Guys, we got to stop this negative connotation. If you've never wanted to be married and you are content on your own and you are feel fulfilled, that's, good for you, but I would argue that's probably less than 1% of people because humans were made to interact with one another and humans were
Mhm.
made to have a partner that you can go through life and lean on and vice versa. It's not just one leaning on the other. Sometimes they need to lean on you. But when there's so much of this, the same thing around kids. Oh, but it's so expensive and it's so hard and you're never going to sleep and you're never going to be able to live your life. It's mind boggling. It's like you're talking about bringing a human life onto this planet and you're bitching about not getting some sleep for a year. Like, how would you like what a narrow minded, closed off outlook on the world.
Honestly, pretty selfish too.
Hmm.
And I like kind of hesitate using that word because those people would not agree, you know, but it really is. It's actually really sad. So, were you ever like that though? Did you ever say you never wanted kids?
Hmm. I never wanted kids. I never thought I would be married. Well, I mean, when I was in high school, like pretty much like 15, 16 through like into my age now, but it was really bad then. I struggled heavily with like depression. Um, and it wasn't like, and I'm still young, but even then, like over a decade ago, it wasn't how it is now that it's as talked about. I mean, it was talked about, but it wasn't like now it's, in my opinion, too far. Like people are, that's like a label. It's almost like their pronouns in their bio. They're also
Oh
like
yeah.
anxiety, depression, PTSD. It's like, shut the fuck up. Like nobody really cares. But So I never really liked to tell people that I struggled with it or anything like that because I didn't want somebody to, being the type of woman I am, I don't want to be viewed as weak. So I never would really mention it, or I mean, my family knew of it, but I don't even think my family, maybe my mom knew, like, to a better extent of how bad it was, but there was a lot of it that I would just hide. And so in that, it was very much like my view on life was like, I'm meant to be here for a good time, not a long time. Like, I didn't really see, couldn't imagine myself being 25, 35, 45, 55. Like, I don't know what it was, but I just didn't envision that for myself. And then with that, with the struggles I had, from my perspective, I'm like, well, who am I to bring a child into this world if my own mind is fucked up? Like, how am I supposed to, from a healthy standpoint, take care of a kid? And I mean, that's like, I grew up in a very good household. Like, my parents were not perfect, but comparatively, and the older I get and the more people I meet and I come across other people's situations, I had it really, really good. But again, it doesn't matter how good you have it, it's not easy. And there's things that, can happen when you're growing up that your parents genuinely are just trying to do their best and manage, you know, providing for a family, usually more than one child, and meet everybody's needs. And there's still things that fall through the cracks
Yeah.
and unintentionally to them. And that's, I think, now in my age, something that I'm unpacking more now that I'm married, because boy, when you meet the person you marry, does it shed some fucking light on the shit you need to work on, which is humbling. It's like, okay. Me- it's like I thought I was in my healed journey and I've worked through this, but not quite. But yeah, so I think I definitely never, like, I thought marriage wasn't something I thought too much about, but kids, I used to say they steal your money and your happiness. And I would always just, yeah, I'm never having kids. I'm never doing that. I worked so much that from my perspective, that was going to be my life. I was just going to work my way up in a company and be either like CEO or own it someday because I'm more than capable of doing that. And then the moment that Jace came in my life, I was like, I don't wanna do any of this. I just wanna make bread and have a garden and have a home cooked meal ready when he gets home and pack his lunch in the morning and cook and clean and do all the stuff that every feminist on the face of the planet has been like, "Ah, this is awful. We're treated like slaves." Sign me up then, I guess, because that sounds great to me because this whole working thing while dealing with fluctuations of hormones and other people's emotions and trying to manage, not for me,
And
not
it's kind of wasted. Like, it isn't wasted because you're making good money, right? And you're, like, doing all these great things in a job, but at the end of the day, you go home and you carry all of that weight with you, and in the grand scheme of things, those people are gonna go home to their situations that is not their like, their work life is not their whole life.
mhm,
So, like, what is it? You're putting all that energy into something when you could be doing it in your own home.
yeah,
Imagine if everyone put as every female put as much energy into fixing their own homes and encouraging the men around them as they did building other people's businesses.
yeah, or even men, and that, like, that's something,
Mm.
part of why what I enjoy about my job is the fact that I can have the impact on people's lives, not on their work life. I do have an impact on their work life, but I make it a point as somebody that started in the industry when I was 20 and I was in sales. So, the harder you work, the more money you make, regardless of what anybody wants to, oh, you got lucky. No, I came in on my day off every single week for months. And I had standards for myself, regardless of what the company expected of me. I never took longer than 24 hours to respond to a customer. And if it was something I couldn't get to, I at least reached out to them to tell them, hey, just wanted to let you know I didn't forget about you. I'm working on this and this, or I'm waiting for an answer on this. I set a standard for myself, and that's where I was successful. And then I was successful to the point of being able to have a management position, which was great. And then it, to me, was just a giant opportunity to have a positive impact on these people's lives. We all are here working 40 plus hours a week to make a living to support the lifestyle that we like and what actually matters in the world. But if we're gonna be here, why not make the most of it? Why not do have a relationship with the people you work with? I mean,
Mhm.
the company we work in is like a large company. We do big things, but our inherent department is small. So I'm like, okay, if there's 6 of us, we should be able to we don't need to be best friends. We don't need to all have the same personality, but we should be able to get along. Then it makes work more bearable when we are here and because we can get through it together. And then on the tough days or, the good days even, we're all in it together. But that was, I think, one of my favorite parts of management is like the one salesman I have, just because of the way I live my life, before I met Jace, I was a lot more consistent with jujitsu, and I would leave work, go to jujitsu, and usually after jujitsu, do kickboxing, like 2, 3 days a week. And then the days I wasn't doing that, I was either just doing jujitsu, and then on the weekends doing like one-on-ones. And I was always, because I was single, I had nothing else to do. And then he's like, "Well, how do you like, why do you do that?" And I'm like, "Well, it makes me feel better." And that is something that for my mental health, I'm never somebody that liked to be on medication. And I realized physical movement helps. It helps my brain kind of quiet down a little bit. And my body, I can be more present and in reality. And so he started running and he would come in. He's like, "Hey, Emma, I ran a mile yesterday." I was like, oh, what was your time?" Well, like 11 minutes, but I'm like, "That's okay, you did it." And then fast forward a couple weeks, "Emma, I did a mile under 10 minutes." I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And then fast forward a couple weeks, "Emma, I signed up to do a 10-mile run in November." I'm like, "This is incredible." So it's like I started to see it's almost like he enjoyed coming to work and doing his job because there was somebody there that actually gave a shit and put a human level to they didn't look at him like a dollar sign, like, "Oh, you're
Yeah.
producing for this company or you're not," and that's all that there is to it. It's like, "No, I care about your lifestyle and the way," and I mean, me being the blunt individual I am, I never hesitated to call people out, like my assistant manager now, when he would eat McDonald's 4 times a week for lunch, which he's got the metabolism you would never tell, but I'm like, "Dylan, that's gonna catch up to you one day, and even if it doesn't, your heart, like, the fats that's in that, all the fillers, try once a week." And also, like, he was such a cheap ass, and I was like, "For the cheapest person I know, you spend so much money on lunches." And he's like, "Well, I don't understand." I was like, "Your now wife, Mackenzie, cooks, dinner for you guys, just have her make extra, and then you take that for lunch the next day." Fast forward like a year later, he's not drinking energy drinks. He goes out to lunch maybe once a week. And it's like, it has an impact where initially some people may be like, "Oh gosh, you're being a little aggressive, like telling people
Mhm.
they shouldn't be eating that." It's like, I mean, you can very much just look back at me and be like, "I want to eat that." Oh, okay. Then you have every right to do what you want.
Right?
But it's because I care that I'm saying that. And if you still choose to do it, you have every right to do so.
Yeah, I like that. I like that because I struggle sometimes, like, when I see what people are doing, and I'm like, I know it's going to end in a bad place. And sometimes they know that, but just like the little reminder, and then eventually being around you and you being an example of what you're saying, like, goes so much further because anyone is so quick to give advice, but then are you actually taking that advice yourself?
Mhm.
Like, come on. I do have a question though about like high school. So when you were in high school and you were like having those kind of depressed thoughts or thoughts about like what you wanted your job and your kids and your married life to look like, do you think there was anything that someone could have said to you to like change that thought process for you?
Hmm. I think it would have been really, really difficult. And I say that just because I'm such a hard-headed person that I feel like I would have to have a lot of respect for who's saying it to me to actually listen. Which I mean, I was able to find the most incredible therapist on the face of the planet. I'm forever grateful. I believe that she was an angel that was put in my life. Like, I think that therapy can be beneficial when you're in those ruts. I don't think it's a lifelong solution because therapy is supposed to be work. You're supposed to put in work to take ownership for the things that whatever it is that causes them, whether it's a, you know, shortcoming in your brain that causes depression, or it's a hereditary thing, or maybe you had a bad upbringing that caused certain reactions. All of those things are out of your control. So it's a matter of owning, okay, this is my reality. What can I do to help myself? Rather than, oh my gosh, I can't believe I was born this way and this is so terrible. That's going to get you nowhere. If anything, it'll
Mhm.
probably make it worse. So you're better off just, okay, well, this is the reality of it. And it doesn't mean you're going to just overnight accept it. Sometimes it takes time. But then you start to say, okay, so what can I do to make this better? And so it was through her that I think, which I don't know what she saw in me because I mean, my mom tried for years. She took me to multiple therapists and I would see them once and I'd be like, I don't like them. And if you've ever tried to look for a therapist, it's not an easy thing amongst like insurance, but then it's like, you're being very vulnerable with them. You have to like them as a person and
Mhm.
respect them as a person. And so if your personalities don't jive, it doesn't work. But I just didn't give anybody the time of day. Like I had no problem staying straight to their face. Somebody twice, three times the age of me, I'd be like, that doesn't make any sense. That sounds stupid.
And you
And
probably weren't wrong.
no, but they rarely anybody in that. It's like doctors, therapists, lawyers, like they don't get people that call them out because they have this title. And it's like, I don't really care who you are. If it doesn't make sense to me, I'm going to say it doesn't make sense. And there's a chance I could be wrong, but it's what I'm thinking. So I'm going to say it. I'm not afraid of it because it's, it should be called out. And if you're right, you would have no problem explaining. And then I can say, oh, fair point. Okay.
I think there's a problem in our world right now where there's a lot of people in credentialed positions, which are just as soon as they get those little letters at the end of their name, now anything they say is pretty much fact. And it's not actually based, and now it's not everyone. Like, obviously, there's a lot of therapists, a lot of doctors, and that can be harmful to say to the general people who are in those positions. But nowadays, like, you're actually just punished for questioning anyone who's in places of power. And it's
Mhm.
like the point of America is that we can question whoever we want.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that it might not have been that they were saying anything wrong, but the energy behind it, like, where are you coming from?
Mhm.
You don't know me. Why are you actually, as a therapist, you should get to know someone. And I've never been to therapy, but a lot of people use like, oh, I have a therapist, like it's like a badge of honor that they're the most depressed and the most this and the most. I've been to therapy 10. Actually, I know this little sect of like young girls who use and like it's like on TikTok and stuff, who use going and getting admitted to mental hospitals as like another badge of honor. Like, wow, I spent 2 weeks in a mental institution. I'm that messed up. And I'm like,
Oh
that's not
gosh.
normal. But no one's telling them otherwise. So okay, if you guys are all just so mentally messed up and so mentally ill, why wouldn't you make it a competition to make yourselves feel better? Or why wouldn't you add humor to it? I actually do think it can be funny. Not that it's funny that they're so mentally ill, but you kind of, when you're at the lowest points in life, if you can't find humor in anything, people are just too serious.
Mhm.
They're just too serious and they hide behind their, degrees. Actually, that was another question of mine. Do you have any college? Like, did you ever go to college at all?
No, I barely graduated high school. I like account so my like depression hit really bad like my junior year of high school. So I did not show up a lot at all. And I was like, when I did show up, I didn't have a backpack. I had this Avengers blanket that I would wear around the fucking school. And
You were that
I
kid.
would fall asleep in most of my
Yeah.
classes. But there was also like I was seeing a psychologist, psychiatrist, whoever the fuck can prescribe medication. I had been seeing a therapist that thought I needed medication, but she couldn't prescribe it. So she recommended this guy that could prescribe medication. So again, I go to this guy. My mom takes me there because she's just trying to help me.
Mhm.
I'm seeing him. It had to be months, but it's like my memory's terrible. It's all a blur. It might have been a year. I don't know. Tried me on every single antidepressant under the sun. Like, he would put me on he'd be like, "Okay, you're gonna try this one, and you're gonna start with half a pill, and then after a week, you're gonna do a full pill, and then like, in 2 weeks, I'd see him, and he'd be like, let's try this one." One of those
That's actually crazy.
amongst the, antidepressant was Adderall, because my mom was saying how I don't like to go to school, and I don't really pay attention. He's like, "Oh, she's ADD." And so he put me on Adderall, and the Adderall made me lose an immense amount of weight, and it made me sleepy. Like, normally, Adderall, people are like, "Oh, yeah, I take Adderall to get through law school." No. I would literally go over to my friend's house after school and just fall asleep on her couch, or I'd be in a class and I would fall asleep. And so my mom had, like, scheduled an appointment with him and was like, "I just wanna talk over, like, there's some things," because I think my friend in high school, which I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure like, there were other kids in school asking her, like, "Hey, what's up with Emma? Like, she doesn't seem like herself. She seems like she's losing a lot of weight." And then I don't recall if she told my mom or maybe her telling me, and I was like, "Oh." Like, I didn't even see it that much in
Wow.
myself. So my mom had a meeting with the guy and was like, "I just wanna, like, figure out what the plan is and just get a better understanding and all this stuff." And in that meeting, to make my mom feel better, he had said, "Oh, there's nothing to worry about. I have my 3-year-old on an antidepressant."
Are you kidding?
And my mom was like, "Oh my goodness. Like, how did I bring my kid into this situation?
Wow.
Like, why did I trust this individual?" Which I think my mom really took, like, to heart, and it really fucked her up because here she is just trying to help me, and
Yeah.
I don't blame her one bit. Like, she didn't
No.
know. She was just trying to she thought he was an expert and he knew. So, luckily, she was able to then find who I then saw for over a decade. And so it was like in that moment, I just had a bad taste in my mouth when it came to therapy, but she made it better. But to go back to the question, so my junior year, I did not like, I just was super depressed, super like, didn't show up, not a good thing. And then come my senior year, like, I was very intelligent in my freshman and sophomore year that I knew what I needed to graduate. And I knew I was more than likely not going to go to college because I never liked school, so the thought of paying for school didn't make sense to me unless maybe I was out of school for 5 years or a few years and then decided, "Oh, okay, now this interests me and I need a degree to do it, so I'm gonna go pursue that." And thankfully, my dad also, growing up, always said education's really important, and then once we got to high school, he kinda shifted his spiel to be, "Yes, education's important, but college is a business. So unless you know what you want to do, don't go, because I'm not gonna pay for you to just go party and then in a
Yeah.
year be like, I need to come home because, I've switched my major 12,000 times and now I'm just burning holes in your pockets and I have no idea what I wanna do because I'm a kid, ultimately."
Mhm.
So, um, my freshman and sophomore year, I pretty much, like, I didn't rig the system, but anytime you'd have to meet with your guidance counselor and they're like, "Okay, so what do you wanna take next year?" I was like, "Nope, not doing that. I'll sign up for baked goods class or whatever." And they're like, "Well, actually, on college transcripts," I go, "Nope, not going to college, so I don't need to worry about that." "Well, honey, you still have a couple years, you may." I go, "And again, I'm gonna tell you no for the second time. You're not gonna tell me what I'm gonna take just for me to possibly get a bad grade in it because I'm so stressed because I didn't wanna take the class anyway. You're here to help me. I'm not doing it." On to the next subject. So, my senior year, I pretty much set up to where I didn't really have a lot of difficult classes because I took everything I needed to take earlier. Um, but I did take, so like newspaper, you could take as many times as you wanted because the news was always changing. And my junior year, I took it just because I'm like, whatever, this should be easy enough. But then we figured out that newspaper was your 4th hour was, like, the only option because it allowed for you to, like, I don't know, you would, like, interview other students, so I don't know if that's why they made it, but there was only 1 newspaper class because there was only
Right.
1 school newspaper. So, a lot of people in that class then, figured that out and then signed up for that class with their friends come their senior year. So, I did that my senior year and then I got myself in a lot of trouble because my junior year, I was very depressed showing up to school, and the teacher that ran that class, like, would kinda call me out in front of the class, like, not every day, but whenever he felt necessary, and he'd be like, "Hey, Emma, you gonna actually do any work today, or you're gonna just fall asleep in the corner?" And everybody would, like, laugh and whatever. So senior year, I come back and I'm like, "All right, motherfucker, now you're gonna be in for it." So I made his life like hell. Like half the class wouldn't do their work because he was just like, "No, you need to," and I was like, "I don't need this class to graduate, so I don't need to do a fucking thing." And he was like, didn't know how to handle that. So I ended up actually having to like spend time in the principal's office instead of being in that class, which this principal had known me since middle school. And he's like, Emma, you've never gotten in trouble. You've never gotten a detention or anything. What is going on? And I was like, he fucking pissed me off. Like last year, he made fun of me instead of maybe pulling me out in the hallway and being like, hey, Emma, are you okay? Like, you seem really sleepy. You're never actually doing work. But he, as a grown ass man, thought it would be funny to make fun of me. So now he's going to understand what that's like. And then the principal was actually like he's like, okay, well, I'm not really
Makes
going to.
sense.
Yeah. And then um, actually like full circle, which I've thought about reaching back out to him and like seeing how he is. Because
The
when
principal or the teacher?
the teacher, because
Really?
when I graduated, when you like get your, I don't know how it was where you're at, but when you get your diploma, um, afterwards you like go back to like the room you started in, and then they give you like an envelope that has like all your actual paperwork and all this. And every graduating class, the teachers had the opportunity that they could like put notes in your envelope. So like say your freshman year you had a teacher that you really had a good relationship with. Once you graduate, they can put a little note in there
Oh,
that's
that's
like,
cool.
yeah. He put a note in my graduating envelope that basically he was saying, he was like, as a father of two young boys, I'm learning every single day ways that I can better myself and better my life for my kids. And I forget exactly the way he worded it, but he pretty much was saying, he was like, it was interesting when this time came around for me to write letters to students that have had an impact on me over the course of the last few years. And he's like, yet the only student that came to mind was you. And he was like, I apologize for how I treated you
Wow.
and everything that I put you through. And I was like, damn, like that actually got through to him. So I like think about him to this day and will be like, in it's Mr. Day, is his name, Todd Day. Um, and like a girl that I do jujitsu with is like was in high school. Now she just went to the Marines, and he was still there. And she was like, do you know any of my teachers? And when she was listening, I'm like, oh my gosh, Mr. Day. And she had brought like me up to him, and he's like, wow, how's she doing? And so it's like through her, I had communication
Yeah.
with him, but I feel like it would be awesome to like grab coffee and be like, yeah, look at where I am now. That little shit of a high schooler, like pretty damn successful, like doing my own
Yes.
thing.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so it's weird how those things work. But I feel like it was things like that that had a bigger impact on me than people that I was closer with, because it's
Right.
like he didn't even know me well enough, but yet he felt the urge to still say something, which meant something to me and made me feel, I guess, more like purposeful, or like I had a sense of like reason for being here. Um, and that like also happened in therapy, but then I also had like a stint where I went to the hospital because I was like harming myself. And there was like this nurse that literally she had to be in the bathroom with me because I was like on watch or whatever. And she like just looked at me like as bluntly as I can imagine, like I would be now. And she was like, why are you doing this? Like, you are such a beautiful young woman. Why are you doing this to yourself? And I was just like, who are you? Like, what is your name? And why are you talking to me like this? But again, it's those types of impacts that I think sat with me the most and I felt were the most genuine, because it's like they had nothing to gain or to lose. Like they could have just done their job, done their thing, and nothing else would have changed. But for whatever reason, she felt the need to say that, just like Mr. Day felt the need to write a note in my thing.
Well, as I hear your story, which I had no idea actually any of that. I've known you for like a couple of years now. Has it been that long? Like, how long has it
Mm-hmm.
been?
Oh, like 2.5, almost 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had no idea. Like, I guess maybe you had mentioned it at times, but like,
Yeah.
I
It's
don't
also
know.
hard, like when we do see each other, is like there's just so
It's
much
usually
going
like on
on.
a beach and we're
And
like
there's fucking 20 other
relaxing.
people around, and we're
Yeah.
like, oh, we're going over here, we're going down here.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I think that the reason a lot, like, because your story is not, you don't stand alone in like everything you went through, your thought processes before getting married, and not just that now all you're just a different person. And, like we all have it right all the time. I think we're still lied to on a daily basis, but a lot of our kids are acting out, and then our doctors and parents who don't know better people who just don't know in general are labeling it as depression, anxiety, ADHD, or here's a pill to fix that. And then they go through what you went through, but maybe they don't have parents who are like, whoa, what did I do?
Mhm.
Like, parents aren't always going to get it right all the time, but the ability to stop, think, and be like, I was trying to help, and clearly this isn't working, actually caused a lot more harm. Let's change course. That not a lot of kids get have that kind of support at home. But then going through school, like I struggled in school too, and I went to Catholic schools my whole life, and I found it all to really be a waste of time. Not that I didn't learn a lot or that I didn't have to go through that to be who I am today, but it's just I think that it's just taking kids out and putting them in this school for 8 hours a day where they're told lies that we can't really justify. We're like, why is this what we have to go through? And so you just lie to yourself. And then I think that's where a lot more of like the depression and anxiety comes from and the self-harming because you're trying to fit into this box, this mold that everyone says you're supposed to fit into,
Mhm.
and it doesn't work, and then you're the problem.
And you're not allowed to question anything. Like, that's the thing is, like, I was one of the only kids, and that's where I would get all the backlash from and why all the teachers would think I was such a pain or the counselors. I went to schedule classes with my friend because our counselor tried to tell her she needed to retake a class that she already took because all the other classes were full. And she's like, "I hated this class. Like, I did it as a requirement." I'm like, "We're gonna go back together." And I went back in there and I was like, it sounds like she's going to have one less hour a day of school unless you find a way to clear up a different class because you're not going to force her to take a class that she's already taken that she hated. Like, just because you're the adult and we're the kid doesn't mean we don't know what we're talking about. And if I don't know, explain it to me so that I can better understand. But when you're in those environments, it's like, don't question them. Don't like it's your elder. You should look up to them, which, yeah, there's a way to do it that's not disrespectful. But too many kids are put in these situations and told, like, well, now it's almost like way too far the opposite
Yep.
direction to where they're like acting out all this shit. And then the parents are like, my it's like, no, you need to beat her ass more. What are you talking about?
Oh my gosh, that's so real. And no one's in those like, your parents aren't at school, so you just get a letter home for whatever grade you're in, As a high school, you're not getting letters home anymore, you're just getting written up and sent to detention and having to explain to your parents, and at that point, they really don't care, you're kinda like a little mini adult with more freedom, or at least that's how high school is kinda sold to us, but no one's there actually defending you on a daily basis, so you have to that's where I think a lot of women who are younger are having to kinda go as far as, like, just being labeled a bitch and then having to be fine with it and leaning into it, because if you're not, then people are gonna run all over you, or they're gonna make you do things that just that aren't for you, that make you feel like, why would I go do that? It's such a waste of my time." Like, we shouldn't just have to do something because some teacher told us. That's such a dumb reason too, like, "Oh, there's just no room in the class." Like, okay, so this isn't gonna work.
Yeah.
So what? You're just gonna force me to?
And
That's
sounds
so
like a you
dumb.
problem.
L
Sounds like you didn't plan better
Yeah,
to properly prepare for this. And now I have to deal with your poor planning. That doesn't make sense.
yeah. I actually didn't. You're talking about like how your graduation went. I did not graduate from a Catholic school, so I went for my whole like 1 through 8, the same school with the same people, and then I went to St. Catherine of Siena in Wixom, Michigan. Actually love the school, love the people, most of the teachers. But I had this one teacher, was actually my religion teacher for a few years, and I think she's a very nice woman. But I really struggled with her because she couldn't really answer questions about faith. Like it just, I was like, I felt like I wasn't able to question. And I had this one very specific question. She said, we were going through like, actually, I can't remember the name of the book. It's a very, very Catholic book. And she was talking about how women can't be priests. And I asked her, well, she said, women can never be priests. She just said that like this. And I was like, well, never say never. And she was like, no, they never can be. And I was like, well, why? And she really, I not didn't. And also, I was kind of being ornery. We had a lot of different run ins like this. This was just one point that I was like, never say never. And I actually don't believe that now. Like, I actually, as I've done more research in my adulthood, like women can't be priests. And I understand why. But later that year, it was my junior year. And I had her for, oh, maybe I can't remember if it was my junior year, because I had a different religion teacher that was really nice, but there was one year that she called me for plagiarism, and it was, like, the end of the year, like, time for finals, and it was plagiarized, right? This paper that I wrote, and I looked at the paper and I read through it, and it was like all the MLA citations and all that, and I was like, "No, I quoted everything that I took from books, and then I made everything else in my own words," where you take like a paragraph and you make it your own, and I just did the bare minimum to get through. So, and I literally looked at it and I got sent to the principal's office with it. And in Catholic school, if anyone has been to Catholic school, like anytime there's plagiarism, it's like probably one of the worst offenses you can do
Mm,
in those schools. They like hammer you for it because again, it's a college prep school. So what are they going to do to you there?
mm,
So I got an immediate 0 and I got sent like it's like actually you can get expelled for plagiarism. And it
jeez.
was like kind of hadn't not I don't think they were threatening expulsion for me because I was a really nice I didn't do a lot wrong. I think I did get sent to the detention's office, but it was because I wouldn't wear black tights. I would wear leggings with black socks and sometimes my ankles would show or I would chew gum in the hallways. Ooh, sue me. Oh, and also I like to wear sweatpants because I was always a very cold person. So
Mhm.
I'd wear sweatpants under my skirt and then I'd get caught by the wrong teachers and then I would get in trouble. But whatever. And so I actually went to my principal's office. I was like, yeah, I don't agree with this. I actually think that if she's going to give me a 0 for this assignment, she has to give me a 0 for every other one of my assignments because we had done so many. Because this 0 would take my grade from an A to a B. And that year, too, I was traveling for Taekwondo, and that year it had gotten accredited uh, for like a varsity letter for Taekwondo. So it wasn't a
Mm,
sport that the school technically had,
yeah.
but I had gotten it or through like Alex Covert. He did a high school thing. Like through Alex Covert, he had gotten the colleges all like, or the high schools all varsity lettered. I don't even know what really goes into it.
Mhm.
Um, and so I was traveling for technically a school sport, but I had missed too many Fridays because it's like out of country.
Mm,
And it was like world events, like US Open, Pan Am game, or I don't remember if I went to that. I think I did. So I missed more than 20 days of like school time or whatever. And they had told me that anything past 20 days would have been excused. And they were excused for school events. But apparently once you pass that 20-day mark, for every day you miss past that is 1% off of your grade. So I had all A's that year. I was hammering school. I was like really focusing. And it's also junior year, arguably, is one of your hardest because you get into
mhm.
harder classes. I did not structure mine. Like I did do harder classes up front, but I didn't test high in like certain things. So I had to redo like algebra and like
Mhm.
stupid classes that I just didn't excel um, in like my SATs or whatever. I'm not a standardized test taker. I never
No,
will
I'm
be.
awful. Well, and you probably had higher standards that you had to oblige by. We're like public school. They're like, "Do you have a pulse? All right, you graduate."
Yeah.
Because they get money from the government, so they don't really give a shit.
But I also always did the bare minimum because I never really thought it mattered that much. So I just did what I had to do to kind of get by. But that year I was like, I'm really focused on this. I'm loving, like, I actually liked the classes I was in. I got to get past the BS classes and I got to choose classes like anatomy. And I aced all of my classes, which it's been a long, I don't think I ever did that any other year. But because I missed too many days, they took a percent off of everything. And I ended up with B's and even in one class, like a high C. And it's
Mm,
like 10%. That's like it was a lot of days, but again, I was like acing everything. So at the end of the year, I'm like, why do I not have all A's? And then I had this plagiarism thing. And I'm like, yeah, no, like you have to give me a 0 and everything. And I think I got the opportunity to do extra credit to make up like half of it or something if I did it. It was so stupid. And so I ended up like I didn't flunk anything. Like I passed everything well and got like B's, but it was like low B's. And I'm like, you guys told me this was excused at the beginning of the year. Now I'm finding out now it's not.
mhm,
My parents are paying $10,000+ a year for me to go to this school and get this education here. It's a Catholic school. Like this is a varsity letter that I'm getting. Like I'm representing St. Catherine of Siena now that I'm the only person to do a Taekwondo traveling the country. And they wouldn't change their standard, but at the end of the year they told me after I decided I wasn't going to go back again and instead lean more into the taekwondo and went with like a flex tech route
mm.
for my final year and actually ended up doing some college for free through that, but that they would excuse it for the next year. And I'm like, yeah, no, kind of boats pass. Like, and also that school is, I think it was like, I was like the 8th graduating class or something. It was a newer
Mm.
school. Really liked it. It was actually really a bummer, but Yeah, I mean, like, you just can't ask questions to your teachers, and your teachers are doing the best they can. I really do think that they are doing the best that they can, but then they get students like me and you who it just doesn't make sense, and we just don't really let their non-answers slide. Like, if you don't know, that's fine. Just say that. Come back next time and let's talk about it. I have your class
Mhm.
every single day. We'll see each other again.
Yeah.
But
No.
on a much bigger scale, that's happening in every area of life, not just at school, but also in your homes because your parents are lied to as well. And they think that they're doing the best for you and telling you these things. And you're like, that really doesn't make sense, mom, dad. Well, I'm just your parents. You just got to listen to me. Okay. But like, you're so busy working these 9 to 5 jobs, trying to make sure that you're providing a good living, which you can't do easily with one income
Mhm.
or without like the right college and going into massive debt to get a good enough job to climb the corporate ladder. That's all a lie
Yeah, it's all bullshit.
because college is a business. And how do you get more people into your business? There's a reason. There's actually also studies of men and their flunk rate out of, they don't finish college quite like women do. It's not set up to educate men. Men, like, really at all. Honestly, a lot of the classes that people go through to get these prestigious degrees, they're all kind of bull. Like you have to do feminine studies. What the hell is that?
Oh, yeah, it's dumb. That was something that was crazy when I was in France, is, like, Etienne told me that because I was asking him because where we were at, there was, like, a university nearby because there was a lot of kids, and so I'm just like, "Did you go to school here? Did you" he was like, "Yeah." He's like, "But, like, school here" he's like, "You just pretty much pay for insurance." He's like, "So it's like 300 euro a year." I'm like, "What? What?" And he's like, "Yeah, because it's, like, government," and he's like, "But it's also, like, you only go to" he was like, "People in Toulouse that go to school, it's more of an engineering school. So people that are in the arts, they don't go," and I'm in my head thinking like, "Oh, America, it doesn't matter like what your degree is. That's the classes for the last like year, but the first 3 are just a bunch of bullshit for them to say, 'Oh, yep, nope, you got to pay.' And then on top of that, spend $300 on the book that you're only going to use for here, but it's required. Otherwise, you're going to get a bad grade. And then try to sell it back, but you're gonna get half your money. It's just a giant scam for
Mhm.
kids that they're kids. They don't know what they wanna do. Like, why not say, "Hey, go get a job," or go in your community and say, "Hey, Joe Schmo that owns this company, can I follow you around for like a week or 2 weeks? You don't have to pay me just so I can know what does this company do? What does it entail? Is it something I might like doing?" And learn that way rather than looking at where society is now, how everybody's hiring, yet nobody can find a job. And then the people that can find a job aren't getting paid what they thought they should be getting paid for their bullshit college degree that they thought meant that they would make a certain amount of money when it's like, I don't know who or where you signed that said that that was the case, but it was never promised to you, even if you're a doctor or a lawyer. It's never guaranteed. And it's just very the whole society is again in my opinion because we push so far into like yeah women can do what men can do and women can be boss bitches so don't focus on your education in order to get a good job in order to and then you have like I feel like it started with my sister's generation because my they're like in their early 30s
Mhm.
is like you have those that age of woman that it was all pushed off and even more than being pushed off is the unfortunate reality of them pushing this, like, "Yeah, be more like a man," also came when it came to, like, sexually, basically. It's like, "Oh, well, if men can sleep around, then women can sleep around, and you if a man can do it, then you can do it, but yet it's unfair because you'll be labeled a whore and this and this and this." And it's like, men are animals, like, the biology of a male is to procreate in order to keep their DNA in existence. That's why women were always more of like, "Ugh, get away from me," because we were the people that regulated the chaos. And it's like now when you push this movement so far to where it's like, no, if you want to sleep around and just be on birth control that affects your hormones, that affects your brain in the most crucial years of your life that are going to affect when you choose to have a child, if you choose to have a child, and then how menopause hits and all of that. I've been watching a podcast on it. I meant to send it to you because it's all about like women's hormones and they push this so far, and then so now you have women that are like, "Meh, I might not have a family because I want to be a boss and I want to do whatever a man can do in a company. And on that, I can also then sleep around and I'm on birth control. So then I'm, safe and good. So then they do that in their late teens and in their 20s. And then they reach a point of like, holy shit, I still don't feel fulfilled. I still don't feel like I have a fucking purpose. And then they reach their 30s and they're like, I don't have a partner. I don't have anybody or anything. And like I was fed all these lies over years. And even coming from somebody that, no, I didn't go to college, but I worked my way up in a company. I'm very, very grateful for the company I work for and everything I was able to get out of it. But after meeting my now husband and being exposed to that, I'm like, whoa, this is not what I'm meant to be doing. This is not good for my health. This is not good for my mental state. It's not good for my marriage because here I am playing mom/manager all day long. So I get home and Jace is like, hey, have you seen my mouth guard? And I'm like, why every time that you have to put your mouth, and it's like, for what? For what? Because I'm spread too thin, because I'm, who knows, hormonally what I'm going through that week, it may
Mhm.
have more of an impact on me because that's my biology. It's not, oh, you're just a woman and you're just weak or no, this is my biology, the beauty of my body and the fact that I can bear a child. This is the reality of it is every day in a 28 to 30-day cycle is different. Like, and that's how it's supposed to be. But all these like small societal shifts of like, no, you can do what a man can do. No, you can sleep around. No, don't rush into getting married. And it's almost like I feel like the only saving grace is the people that are now, I feel like they're just guided towards religion because they don't know what else to do. Because every other aspect of society is like, no, no, men and women are exactly the same. And there's a pay gap and you need to fight to make more money. And it's like, no, like all of that is a lie. If you want that out of life and you maybe grew up in a household where your mom owned a company or was high up in a company and you really admired that and you saw yourself doing that, by all means, you can do it, but we're not made the same for a reason. And you're going against your biology. And there's probably ways to do it where you could still be a mom and you can still, but being a mom in and of itself is a stress. Like that's a big deal. That's a big responsibility. So to have a job on top of that, especially nowadays that it's expected of because you can't fucking afford to just have one person working. So it's, oh yeah, have a child and then 6 weeks later go back to work and act like nothing happened. And don't act like it's going to affect your mental health to be physically away from something that was in your body for 9 months and that it's also not going to have an effect on the child. And then now you can't create breast milk because your body's like, well, wait a minute, you're not around the kid. So now I'm assuming you don't need this. And so now everything's out of order and you're just in your, probably go cry in the bathroom and then walk back in your office to the male counterpart coming in. Hey, did you have time to look into that email? Oh, yeah, so sorry. Let me just get back to it right now. Like your whole world is crumbling, but be a man, act the same as a man because we're just as good. And it's like, no, our goodness is being women and not trying to compete, but trying to work together.
And then you add in the topic of, like, abortion, like, what that all that, and the fact that actually, a lot of people can attest to this, that when someone has a baby and they're in a really crappy situation, it's almost like that baby gives them the willpower to, like, mama bear, not just the baby, but also themselves. And
Mhm.
not that, it definitely sucks when babies are born into poor situations, but it doesn't mean that they don't deserve life or that their only option, but that's what the world will tell you, your only option if you don't make enough money, if you are living in don't have a home to live in. There are options out there. They're just not publicized because that doesn't help the greater anti-Christ movement.
Yeah. Well, and it's what's pushed on the news. When you go into your local community or you go on to Brighton Happenings page, and if you said, I'm a young, struggling single mother that needs, you're going to have hundreds, if not thousands of people from your community that'll,
I
what,
have a room open.
yeah, I can help you
I
out.
have a virtual
I can
job.
make meals for you. I can do that's what we've lost is like community. Like
Thank you.
get out there and figure out what's going on in your local community, your local government, your local schools, your local everything. That's where you'll make the impact. And that's where reality is. Like, that's where you live. And then it can be a domino effect from there. But you can't start at the top and work down. You start down and you work your way up. So when you start locally and then you start to have an impact, and then maybe you are an example to another young mother that was too scared to reach out or had too much pride and was like, no, I can do it on my own. I can do, because that's another thing that women will do is, well, no, this is my burden to carry. And it's like, no, we're in this together. It takes a
Takes
village,
two.
right?
It takes two to make a baby, and then yes, you need a village no matter if you are in a healthy,
Yeah.
happy
And
relationship.
that village doesn't have to be, maybe your family situation wasn't great, but that village can be people from your church or people from your gym or people from your work, or it can be so many different things. But instead, we go around, it drives me nuts. You go around, if I could go down to downtown Brighton right now and walk around Main Street, and most people would be looking at their phone, unless they're with somebody, maybe talking to them. And if they're not looking at their phone for some fucking weird ass reason, they still won't make eye contact with you, won't, hey, good evening, or how's it going? Anything. You don't need to stop and give me your life story, but where's the humanity? Like, nothing pisses me off more than when I used to walk a lot on my lunch at work to keep my sanity and like get fresh air. And I had a walking path down the road from me, and the amount of people, and when I say people, because a lot of like, I think older people would be like, oh, it's the younger kids because they don't know how to interact. No, it was a lot of older people that would pass me, whether it be on a bike or walk. And it's like, if I didn't say hi, they wouldn't say shit to me. And the amount of times I wanted to knock them off their fucking bike and be like, what's wrong with you? Like, your mother would be so disappointed in you. Like, acknowledge my existence, acknowledge that we're both two human beings in life, in our own busy worlds, passing each other on this walking path. And you know what? When you start to do that more and more, you will never find better conversations. Like, when I'm traveling, I'm that annoying bitch that you sit next to me. I'm like, so where you come from? So, like, flying back from France, Jace was in fucking business class because his business paid for it. I'm in where the peasants are, back in economy on this 8-hour flight. And so I'm next to this guy and I'm like, how's it going? He's like, good. I'm like, where are you flying from? He was in the Air Force. He'd been in the Air Force for 10 years. So I started, talking, oh, my like sister-in-law has a guy she's talking to that's in the Air Force, and like, where have you been stationed? And he has 2 younger brothers. He lives in Pittsburgh. He's close with his family, but his favorite place. I could tell you so much about this guy because I like, why not? We're sitting next to each other on a flight for 8 hours. Yet the normal way in society to do that is to just sit there quiet. I don't even know who they are. I don't know and if they don't want to talk, that's one thing, but you can create the best interactions, and it like just fills your cup when you just get off that flight and you're like, well, safe travels to the rest of where you're going. And then Jason's like, why are you telling him safe travels? I'm like, oh, well, that's Joe. He's been in the Air Force for 10 years, and he's got 2 younger brothers. They're in the National Guard, and
Mhm.
and because why not? Like, that's the best. And that probably, he was stationed in Istanbul. He went from Istanbul to another airport in Turkey, from that airport to Amsterdam, from Amsterdam to DTW, from DTW to Pittsburgh or
Wow.
Pennsylvania. So nearly 12 hours of travel. I bet he was like, damn, that made that flight a little bit less shitty just to have a conversation with another human being. And there's nothing like, you know, but
Well, conversations have like become so taboo now because anytime you conversate with anyone, it's like, oh, well, what's your political beliefs? Oh, how can I disagree with this person? How can we just make this interaction overall like so then overall people just don't talk to other people
yeah.
because it typically means that you're for some reason we have to just disagree. Which I'm the
Instead
same
of,
way. I love talking to people.
it's like, I look at it as, because something you can clearly tell usually in a quick amount of time if it's going to be somebody that's going to instantly bring up like politics or something you don't
Yeah.
agree with. And I look at it as, okay,
You just change
this
the
is,
topic or you have a conversation about it like, "Oh, well, tell me why."
or
Like,
yeah, this is an opportunity for me to learn. It
yes.
doesn't mean you will change my opinion, but actually, maybe it'll switch my perspective, because
Yeah.
that's why we all have the opinions we have, is it's all based on your life experience and the perspectives and what you went through. It doesn't mean that it's wrong or right. It's your own personal experience that led you to this point. So Why is that your experience? Because based on my experience, this is this. And then maybe we can agree to disagree, or maybe we can both learn. And then we have slightly different opinions and can learn more than just, well, on TikTok or on CNN or on whatever. And it's like, that's not reality. Talk to actual people and you will be surprised at what you come up with. That was my only saving grace during the pandemic was thankfully I had like 2 or 3 months I didn't work. And then we went back to work. And like, I just, you know, I'd have customers that would sit there and they'd be, you could tell quickly their opinions on, well, if these people would get vaccinated, or the opposite of people, oh, well, if these people would stop being sheep or whatever it was. But, you
They
know,
walk in with a mask versus not.
exactly. And it's like, but it's my job. So it's not like it's my place to be political. And
Yeah.
even then, that wasn't my goal. I would always come back to, I'd be like, yeah, it is tough. It is hard to know what's right. But, I just feel like we all just really want to stop being so afraid. I think we really just want to, if we have our grandma in the hospital, we want to be able to see her.
There's a
If
common ground in every situation.
Yes, and every single person was like, "Yeah, no, you're so right." And I was like, all of us wanna go back to normal. We wanna be able to walk down the aisle of a grocery store and not be like, "Oh, the arrows are pointing that way, gotta go the other direction." When it's
Yeah.
like, are you out of your fucking mind
Imagine
thinking you're
telling our
gonna tell me what
Yeah.
direction to walk down an aisle? Like, that's gonna change the spread of disease?
Wild. Imagine telling our kids one day. They're not gonna believe us
Mm,
unless, like, our world goes back to that, and then somehow they kill off, like, millions of people who believe that that's not the way to fight a
eh.
pandemic.
I don't think that would happen. I think
No.
we would fight back before that would take place. As much as people don't want to think that that's the reality of it, but it is. That's why people own guns. Is they're not trying to hurt other people. They're trying to
Mhm.
protect themselves from the government. That's why it's in the Constitution. But people just assume it's like, oh no, you want to do a mass shooting. You don't need that gun. No, that's actually the opposite. You have your opinion on guns because your thoughts of how they're used is not correct. I have my opinion on guns because I use them to protect myself and to provide food for my family. Different perspectives because different uses. You think that they're just used to kill people. So if you're pissed off, you can just, what was that? No, that's not. Usually, people that carry are like the ones that are calming the situation before it even gets to that. And they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, this is because they took training to have that firearm.
Yeah.
That's my.
Yeah, absolutely, and then the mindset too of, like, "Oh, why would we ban marijuana? People are just gonna do it anyway. Why would we ban, like, abortion?" Right? That's specifically abortion. People are just gonna find a way to do it anyways. Well, you don't think that if you ban guns that they're gonna find a way to get their hands on guns and use them anyways? Now you just don't have a way to defend yourself.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's not your neighbor you need to defend yourself from. It's when the cops are knocking on your door and are like, where's your like personal identification card in order so we can keep tabs on every single person and we can control your income, we can control your spending and just control is all it's based around.
Mhm.
But yeah, when it comes to abortions, I feel like that's again, I think it's pushed as like a political thing when I think in reality, I mean, I think lately my latest conspiracy theorist is that everything is an effort to try to diminish our society. So
Everything is fake and gay. I did steal it from Candace Owens, it's fine. But it's true, like, yeah, I agree.
I just saw a video of her like trying to look at some house that a BLM like high up owned. And she was like, this doesn't really look to be supporting Black lives. I don't even see a Black live in there. And then she looked and she was like, the dog's not even black. I was like,
Yeah.
she's a savage.
I love her. People
Oh,
are so actually, my mom will come up to me because she doesn't really watch Candace Owens. I literally, especially since Charlie Kirk died, and even really before that, I watched basically all of her episodes because she just asks questions.
mm-hmm.
She asks questions so boldly, and she is a mother, and she's kind of like honestly a personal inspiration for me on how to have it all in this world. But she's using the gift that God gave her to, like, not really care about what other people say, and, like, her investigated I'm not saying that right, investigative abilities and her political experience and using it to actually do good. But the other people, the people who aren't watching are just seeing the reactions by the people she's looking into and asking
Or the
questions
edited
to.
clips.
Absolutely, and, like, my mom's like, "Well, why this? Why that?" And I'm like, "Well, actually, she never said that. They're just saying she said that because it's easier to, especially when people aren't watching every second of what she's doing, to just attach a narrative of like, oh, she just hates Jews. Oh, like she's okay with the Holocaust because you take one little clip out of context. And again, we should like really, as a society, get away from the clipping of anything. Or at least if we're gonna do that, link it in the bottom. And so
Yeah.
if you watch that little clip and it makes you feel something like anger or fear, go watch the whole thing and actually start learning more about why they might have said that.
And if you don't wanna go watch it, don't share your fucking opinion about it then, because you have no backing to outside of, "Well, I saw this and it made me feel emotional, but I didn't actually watch the whole thing, so I could be wrong."
I
That's where you
actually
should leave it.
100%. I actually watched this or saw this thing, this woman that I actually followed, I kinda liked what she was saying 'cause she's, like, discerning, where the devil is and stuff, and then recently I saw some, like, hate towards Candace Owens. I think it's really interesting because she, like, quotes a Bible verse as a reason why Candace Owens shouldn't be bringing up super specific topics.
Hmm.
I'm just pulling it up so I can, like, actually show. But, again, like, no hate to the woman who's posting this, but she just screenshotted, "Don't worry about the gag order in Charlie Kirk case. I plan to violate it on the world's behalf. The things I've discovered this past week are enough to burn the house down. Yes, Charlie was betrayed by everyone." And then this woman basically said, "This is a criminal homicide investigation. Why on earth," that I'm paraphrasing.
Mhm.
Why on earth are you like, why does she think that she has to come in and like do all this? Just let the FBI do this. This is a normal and a high profile murder case. It's not a cover up. Blah, blah, blah. And then she quotes in the bottom like, um, "Don't leap from gag order to proof of corruption. We should desire lawful transparency, the bringing of verifiable evidence to investigators or the court." Absolutely, we agree. Candace Owens agrees.
Which is why she's doing what she's doing.
Refuse to drink from the well of conspiracy without real proof, and then attaches like this, Theologians chapter 5 verse 21, test everything, hold fast what is good. And then I just commented, and like I don't like arguing because I don't think that this woman is like, I think she's
She
doing the
has good
best that she
intentions.
knows,
Mhm.
and she wants to help bring awareness to things that she doesn't think is serving God. Okay, great, I love that. But I just said that same Bible quote is why Candace is doing this work. Also, normal investigations are not good enough. If anyone's watched any of the series, the FBI is botching,
They
and
didn't even do an autopsy.
there's so many things
If it
they
was
missed.
a murder, why did you not do a fucking autopsy? On top of saying it was what, a 30-06
Oh, it
when
wasn't
that would have
even.
taken his head off, and just
But they're
so many.
banking on the fact that Americans are retarded and that they're not going to actually, not that they're not going to ask
Well,
questions, but that some are, but like it's
because we seem like the crazy people sitting here
no,
and being
well, you have
like,
to label what you're gonna say, like, "Oh, this is my latest conspiracy theory," and, like, it's not a freaking conspiracy theory, just so for someone to listen to what you're gonna say next, you have to say that so that they'll.
well, I preface it that way to say, like, this is just my own gathering of thoughts and views that lead me to be this, but it's not like I can say, oh,
Yeah.
based on this study, this is true. Like,
Yes.
it's just based on my common sense and logic and my personal experience, which is why I just call it a conspiracy theory, because until I can prove in like 5 years that that's actually accurate, which I think it would be sooner than that, because I think, yeah, that's why abortion is the way it is because it's pushed to find another additional way to end society.
I agree. I agree. And yeah, I basically just said like the same Bible quote is why Candace is doing this work. Also, normal investigations are not good enough. Just because that something is normal doesn't mean we should just accept it and not ask our own questions. So I'm not attacking the woman at all. I'm just like, well, I argue that just because it's normal doesn't mean it's good enough. And then she just like, I don't know why people assume no one else is seeking the truth, like the professional agents who do this for a living, just because it's not out in the open for everyone to hear about, which could botch a case. And I'm like, what the heck? I never said they weren't. The common people are allowed to ask questions and investigate too. You don't have to have credentials or be the FBI. So that's another thing. Like just because they're credentialed or because they're labeled doesn't mean that actually they know everything or that they're going to investigate as well as like what Candace Owens and her what she calls mommy sues are doing is proving that the internet could be used as a tool and it should be for like transparency in general. But like every good thing, like the internet was a good thing. It gets taken and there's always the dark parts of it. And then, well, we shouldn't, it'll botch a case. And then I followed up with, how could publicizing information about a crime that already happened botch a case? That makes no sense. The truth would be revealed in due time. And that's true. Anyone can go back, Tucker Carlson's going back and doing a whole 9/11
I want to watch
investigation.
it so bad.
Very interesting. I started only the first episode, and not that people didn't agree that 9/11 was actually, some people from the beginning said it was, I don't know, they didn't even see a plane that hit it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's such a conspiracy because every news outlet said that there was 2 planes that hit and blah 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 blah, and it was whatever, the terrorists, right? Terror, 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 terror. And it's
Yeah.
like there's other
Fear,
agendas,
fear.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
at play, and they're feeding, especially off of I think our world overall has gone much more feminine, like our college institutions, jobs in general, which is why men are not doing well in college. And then you take something like the news media, and in our house, it's on all the time. And almost anytime I come home, I just literally turn it to subtle, quiet Jesus music, even if it's a TV show, because man, is it a trap? I just get stuck in that little web, and I
Even
don't,
music,
yeah,
everything.
oh my gosh, when I come home and I'm stressed and the first thing I walk in is see a TV show, it doesn't even matter what it is. If I'm exhausted and I start watching it for 2 seconds, it's a spider web, and I get spun in and zipped up and then fed poison, and
And
I'm
it's
like,
exposure therapy, if you ask
it
me.
is.
Yeah, I think it's it really comes down to in that lady's instance and her perspective on just oh, we need to leave it to the professionals. And it's this is points just like that are the exact reason why people need to look into the history of the United States of America. When you go back into the history of the United States of America and you look at the United States compared to other countries, there's a reason why we are the way we are. There's a reason why Candace Owens can do what she's doing, and you have the ability to post the fact that you don't like it. You don't understand that in other countries you can't do that. And that's not a good thing. You don't want restriction over your opinions. You want somebody to be able to say something you disagree with. And whether it's a polite response or you fucking idiot, how dare you think that? Whatever it may be, or whatever you feel is right in that moment, you should be able to say it. But again, when you want to try to quote the Bible and say, you need to let the professionals do it. If you've ever read the Constitution, there's a reason why it says we the people. And there's a reason why young men in their early 20s were able to write it in 1770, I think it was wrote before 1776. And it still applies today because the nature of human beings is greed. We as humans are greedy. It's not when everybody wants to give this oh, but if we had socialized healthcare and everybody got paid fairly and you're living in a unicorn, rainbow, non-existent world because there's no incentive if we're not working against each other and we're not, well, they're doing it this way, I need to do better than that, or I need to one up that. But so the fact that, because I tell my dad, or I think about this, or I talk to Jason about my dad, because me and my whole family have different political views. Everybody else that in my family is on the other side of the aisle aside from me. And I didn't really associate with politics until the pandemic. And I literally just started asking questions. I was like, oh, wait a minute. This doesn't make sense. If they're saying that you can get a vaccine and it's going to help, but then they're still getting the spread. But then I can look on the CDC's website and there's bazillion cases of COVID, but there's no cases of the flu this year. Why? Something's not adding up. That's literally how it started, was me just being this isn't making sense. And then my dad which is ironic because my dad is the one that said, humans are greedy. Humans are greedy. These pharmaceutical industries, they're lobbying to get, and it's yeah, they're greedy. So why do you think that all of a sudden the government has our best interest in mind? And they don't just have how can I make more money? Me. How can I keep my little circle? That's exactly my point, is I don't think one side of the aisle is any better than the other. I think they're all fucked. But that's the whole point, is that's why if we start in our community and realize, no, we're not willing to put up with this anymore, then we hold the power to I feel so strongly in that way when it comes to everything, when it comes to doctors not properly listening to you and actually taking your, opinions and feelings seriously, when it comes to workplaces not properly treating you well. It's like, guys, guess what? If we all don't show up tomorrow, they can't make money. If we all stop going to the doctors, they don't have patients. They don't have customers. We're their customer.
They're going to have to change.
So when you want to be like, oh, well, my doctor just made me feel stupid, then you should post online, hey, has anybody else dealt with this? Because it made me feel very unheard and unseen. And their job is to help me, not to just make me feel like I'm fucking stupid. And if maybe my thoughts and feelings are wrong, then explain it to me so I can understand. That's why I'm coming to you, right? Because you're the professional. But it's like we've forgotten that that's our power outside
Mm.
of the stupid, dumbass protests that they do. That, I mean, I'm all for peaceful protests, but it's like there's other things that I feel like you could do that have a stronger impact than just going and being on the street. And then when somebody of a differing opinion comes and says, like, well, why do you feel this way? You're now screaming and crying and saying that you're getting hurt and offended, and abused because this person's in your space. And it's like, no, if you're publicly going out and stating an opinion like that, you're opening up the opportunity for people of differing opinions to come and say, wow, I don't agree with that. Explain it to me. But the only reason you're getting emotional is because you can't fucking explain it.
100%.
And then that's why you're pissed off. So you have to attack their person of, oh, well, you're ugly or you're fat or you don't know this, rather than saying, actually, I've never thought about it that way.
Well, that's I think what men do too is like the people who call me a bitch, it's typically not another female. At least not in my experience. It's usually like it's like guys. And really it's like I say something and they don't like what I said, and so they just call me a bitch. And then they just write it off as like, oh, that girl's just a bitch. Like, just don't listen to her, right?
Well, I
But
do
they
it for
just
women
can't.
too.
Definitely. I don't know. I guess the women in my life, I mean, my mom's called me a bitch a couple times, but I was kind of being a bitch,
It's
so
your
it was
mom. It's
right. It was
different.
right. It was more funny, if anything. But they just can't defend, honestly, like what you said, or they have no reason as to why you're wrong. So 100%, they just give you a label and then move on with your life.
Mm-hmm.
They don't actually understand that it's not helping anything. If anyone has an opinion, understand why that's your opinion so you can go and actually have conversations, understand the other side, agree to disagree. That
Mm-hmm.
is an option.
Yeah, because it's like, how about you sit there and say, huh, well, in this moment, I feel like you're kind of being a bitch. But at the same time, I'm wondering why that's my thought process and why that's my opinion. That's why my reaction. Because more times than not, with people like us, it's because people don't like the truth. That's what I've realized is the people that dislike me the most are generally the fakest people, because they hate that it's so natural for me to just, "Meh, that's my opinion." Like, I thought something and now I'm saying it, because those people will think a thought and they're like, oh no, I can't say that. What's going to be accepted by the people I'm around? That's what I'll say.
They're going to
And
be
then
nice, and that's
my
a
answer is
lie.
going to change
Yeah.
depending on who I'm around so that I can be better accepted.
Mhm.
When in reality, now I'm just a shell of a human being and I don't even know who I am because I don't have the balls to be like, well, I don't agree with that. I look at it this way. Okay, well, you have every right to do that. And then guess what? Look at us. We're both still alive. We're both still functioning. Like, you can go about your life. I can go about my life. Like, that's the beauty of America, is we can have differing opinions, talk about it. I still don't agree. Okay, moving on.
Yeah. There's some women too who have different personalities. They're not going to be as outspoken. And so sometimes, like, I mean, I have the thought process. Sometimes we're like, oh, I just need to be more like that woman who's calmer and peaceful and doesn't cause turmoil in areas where there really wasn't before. Not because it wasn't in everyone's head, just no one was talking about it. Right.
Mhm.
And then I'm like, actually, no, I am unique in the way that I am, and I can do it in a feminine way. And that's kind of the journey, is like, you're just not going to figure that out tomorrow.
Mhm.
But the first step is actually understanding that there's a problem. And it's not that it's not you, but it's like, what caused me to feel like this was my only option? And then
Mhm.
actually discerning like what is serving you and what's not. And then empowering those women who probably also want to be like us. Everyone wants what they don't have.
Mhm.
No one's okay and comfortable in the way that they are because they get all these opinions from other people. And a lot of times those opinions too, like someone will say like, "Oh wow, you're just so loud and outspoken." It's like just too much. It's like, "No, you wish you were more."
Mhm.
You wish you were more like me, more that you
Yeah.
took up more space, that you were comfortable and confident in other situations. But as opposed to you saying that and being honest with yourself, you're gonna lie and say that I'm too much.
Mhm.
Maybe for you, and that's okay. I don't
Yeah.
have to be for everyone.
Exactly.
And that's why picking your community is really important. And it doesn't always have to be blood first. I We have a really strong family, but there's a lot of people who can't really tolerate me as well as others, and also vice versa. Doesn't mean they're just not my family. Doesn't mean you cut off all ties. It just means you take each other where you are and do your best to meet each other in the middle to the best of your
Mhm.
abilities, which isn't going to always be as good as other days. You might be more stressed. They might be more stressed. They might treat you poorly. That's like human life,
Mhm.
but then not everyone has the understanding of why people act the way they do. I actually one of my questions was like, do you think that people actually think about others the way that you do? So not that and I feel like I do this, but sometimes we forget, right? It's all me, 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 me. But when someone does me wrong and I'm not emotionally tied to them, I can be like, huh, I wonder why. And then I look and I'm like, why are they acting like this? But I don't know that a lot of other people do that. Do you find that to be true? Or I guess what's your thoughts?
I don't think a lot of other people do that, but I also think like I can be if somebody does me wrong, I can like resort back to understanding why they did it, but I also am not somebody that usually easily gives second chances. Especially if I know you well enough to know, like, you don't really care enough to actually change your behavior, then from my perspective, it's not worth me pursuing or calling you out on it when clearly you're not in the headspace or the chapter of your life to better yourself in order to actually hear me out and care about, "Oh, I didn't intend to hurt you that way," or whatever. Um, I do I don't think I think that's, like, something that and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's interesting when, like, 2 people like us are talking and we're saying, like, "Yeah, a lot of people are just offended because we take up space or we're very blunt or we're not afraid to speak our minds." But with that, more often than not, based on my experience, the people that are that way are actually some of the most sensitive people, like, have some of the biggest hearts, and part of their going through day-to-day life in order to protect that sensitivity is being this bold, blunt, whatever individual that then other people are like, "Oh my gosh, I could never, like, talk like that, or I could never call somebody out like that." And then they assume like, "Oh, I can be an asshole to that person because clearly they're a bitch, they don't care." When it's like actually quite the opposite. Like I care more than most people that you're going to come across, which is why I'm going out of my way to say something. No person I don't think confrontations well, I guess it's natural for some people or easier for some people, but as a human nature, confrontation is uncomfortable.
Very.
But, like and that's what, like, I've told Jace multiple times is I was like, "I will go into a situation knowing I'm gonna address something, and my heart is racing, I'm sweating, my hands are clammy. I'm no different than another person. It isn't any easier for me, but I refuse. The difference is I refuse to not live in a world of truth and reality and if somebody is not living up to the standard and the moral and the character that I hold myself to, I'm going to call it out, no matter how uncomfortable it makes me. And if they have a problem with me calling it out, then that's on them. But it's never like that's something that I even had to tell my own family. And I have told Jace, like, I don't even think most of my family outside of maybe my mom understands it about me is like, you guys think that I'm this person that like, oh, she has it all together and she's always been so successful and she always and it's like, no, I've had some pretty low points. But with me being so stubborn and trying to protect my therapist calls me a marshmallow because she's like, everybody thinks you're just like this crazy, like brick wall of a human being. She's like, but you're just a giant marshmallow. Like you're just a like squishy ball of love. And I was like, don't tell anybody that. She's like, it'll be our secret.
I love that.
But it's true. And it's like not a lot of, which it's double-sided. Like I don't let enough people get close enough to see that side of me.
Because it's so hard.
It's hard, and it's, again, like, the reason why there's not a lot of people that we find in our life that we, like, really, really align well with. Even, like, our own family, our own blood, you're like, that's not how I would do that." So it's like a trust thing, it's like, "Okay, I can be super vulnerable and open to you, but you as a human being are not capable of doing that with me," which then there's a little level of untrust because one of us is doing it and one of us is not. So the safer way to go about it is just kind of have a wall up when it comes to that stuff. But it's like there's a lot of sides to it because also sometimes it's like a protection thing is like when you look into personality types is like a type 8, which is what I am, and I assume you're probably the same, but we're protectors. So not only are we protecting ourselves, but we're also protecting these other people in our lives that mean a lot to us. And it's almost like we're kind of taking like a whip to the back if it means that we're protecting what's in front
Yeah.
of us. And that can be really uncomfortable at times. And a lot of people will be like, oh, well, you're just a bitch or you just don't care. And it's like, no, actually, I care so much that I'm putting myself through this pain in order to do what's right.
Wow. I've actually never heard it said like that, but I couldn't agree more actually, because again, like I go back to me as a kid and I was just like the nicest. I actually, if I hurt you, if I accidentally like kicked you underneath the table and you're like, oh my toe, I'd cry. Like I literally would cry. My mom would always be like, you're such a nice and kind girl. She used to call me kind all the time. And then eventually she just stopped because I'm like, it's actually not working for me. I cannot live like this. Then I went through my own depression mode. I never went as far as like self-harming or that kind of, or like needing that. I really just kept it in. I did a lot of journaling and drawing and other ways to like get it out, but it was hard. It's hard. And yeah, I never thought about it like that. Well, I it's interesting. We'll end on this note. It's interesting that you talk about trust and vulnerability because that was the rest of my questions. So maybe we'll have to do another podcast and talk more about that because I think it's really interesting, especially as a woman. Like, who do you trust? How do you be vulnerable, especially when you feel so much? Like when I walk in a room, I'm not just feeling my own emotions. I'm feeling that person that seems like they're off. That just like, oh man, how can I help them? Like I don't know them at all, but I feel like I need to help them. But then also you have to really focus on like how do you focus that kind of energy? It's hard because you want to pour it into like the people that you're around most, which is work. So like, and I know you've done a lot of good things with the people around you, and that's why I think why I value you coming into our lives because you are a blessing to all of us in all different ways. But
Thank you.
thank you so much for joining me today. Do you have any final topics? Actually, no. There's a thing I want to start for with actually anyone, a trend, okay? For my podcast.
Okay.
What is one piece of advice that you would give your daughter if you could just tell her one thing to carry on through the rest of her life?
Always stay true to who you are. And like figuring out who you are is challenging, but it's a lifelong journey. And that person will grow and morph and progress. And sometimes you'll lose yourself and you'll come back to yourself. But don't ever think that any aspect of you was incorrectly made. It is like that for a reason. Uh, just because other people can't always accept it or other people don't understand it or you don't understand it doesn't mean it's wrong. You just have to find out why you were that way and work with it, not against it.
I love that. Thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
That's perfect. That's awesome.